What's going on, everyone? In this video today, we're going to go over the pros and cons of wearing a belt during a bench press so you can figure out whether you should be wearing one. So as always, let's get right into the video. Alrighty everyone, thank you for tuning in to another video and checking out the channel. If you're new here to the channel and you don't know who I am, my name is Aaron Kamesi. I'm a powerlifting coach, athlete, referee, and meet director, so I make videos here on this channel to help out those groups of people. In this video today, we're going to go over a user submitted question, and this one happened to be submitted by one of my own lifters, so thank you Robin for sending over this question. As always, y'all can send me questions and topics by commenting down below or messaging me directly through my social media. Those will also be in the description down below. But this one was sent by one of my lifters, going over what are the pros and cons of wearing a belt during the bench press so that she can know whether she should actually be wearing one, because some people will wear a belt during bench press, some people won't. So we're going to break down this video why you would or would not, so you can figure out for your specific situation whether you should or not. And quickly going through a little bit of a background or history of why maybe it started being more prevalent in the last 5 years or so, is that if you start going back more than 5 years back, 10 years back or so, in the IPF there was only one division that was basically single ply. You can wear the squat suits, the knee wraps, the benchers, the deadlift suits, and that was their only option. There was no raw or classic division there in IPF, and if you go further back also in USAPL there was no raw division. And then aside from that, in other federations oftentimes it was just the unlimited or multiply, where you can wear multiple different layers, canvas suits, and all that kind of stuff like that. So when it came to the bench shirt, they used to wear the belt in order to hold the shirt down in place. If you don't have the belt holding down the bottom of the shirt, then the shirt can ride up and it can get out of position, and it can also choke you at the bottom position, all that kind of stuff like that. So the belt helps cinch the bottom portion, and you can also use the collar to cinch the top portion to really hold the material in place, so that the only way you can stretch is by the actual weight that you're bringing down is really stretching that material, and then it's going to give you that reflex coming out of the bottom, which is going to let you do more weight. So when you see IPF lifters at a world championship or USAPL lifters at a national championship on social media or YouTube or whatever like that, or in your gym, these raw lifters may have been watching these equipped lifters wearing a belt for their bench press to hold the bench shirt down in place, and they figured, okay, maybe I should be wearing a belt during bench press too. So maybe there could be some kind of snowball effect where some raw lifters started wearing the belt because they saw equipped lifters wearing it, and then other raw lifters saw those raw lifters wearing a belt, so they tried it out. In addition, there could have been some equipped lifters that were also then competing in raw when raw started coming into USAPL and the IPF, and since they were already comfortable wearing a belt during their equipped benches, then they also just wore their belt for the raw benches because it just felt comfortable, it felt good, everything like that. And so they got used to it, and again, other people would then see them do it and they would try and mimic it. So there's a possibility that it could just be one person saw the other person do it and everyone started trying it out more and more. All right, so now we'll go into pro number one of why you may want to wear a belt during a bench press, and it's one of the reasons why I wore it initially, is that it can help with giving you active feedback or tactile feedback of whether you're breathing and bracing properly. So oftentimes when people are first getting into bench press and learning how to arch and get their leg drive and everything like that, they don't know quite how to breathe properly and expand the rib cage and brace their abs and everything like that. And so it can be hard when you're not pushing against something and knowing, well, am I actually expanding my rib cage? Am I actually bringing my chest up higher? Am I actually contracting my abs? Because you're in this weird position that you're not used to. It's one thing if you're doing an ab machine or something like that, or just breathing laying down, compared to when you're holding a weight and you're trying to arch and actually bench press. So having a tight belt around you can give you feedback of whether you're expanding against that belt and you're feeling that difference, you're feeling that pressure, or if you're not and you're not feeling any pressure, maybe even letting your breath out during a bench press and you're feeling it loosen up. So for beginner lifter learning how to arch and get leg drive and breathe and brace properly, it can help just to give you some quick feedback. If you don't have someone there to watch, or if you can't video, then you can use the belt instead to give you that feedback. And that's what I did when I first was getting into powerlifting, is I wanted to put the belt on, kind of get a feel for it, see that I'm doing it correctly, and then once I kind of got down what it feels like, how it should be when I'm actually bracing properly in the bench presses, then I just got rid of the belt. Pro number two is that it can help with supporting your lower back. So for some people, when they do a big arch and are really basically hyperextending their spine, is they could maybe feel a little bit of pain in their lower back during the bench press, or after they rack it and kind of unravel themselves and kind of release that pressure, then they may feel some stress or some pain there. So the belt can help support that area and maybe stop you from going to the full end range of motion, and so basically it can help relieve some of that pain that you may be dealing with. But it's kind of iffy whether you want to do this and keep pushing it, or if you want to say, okay, maybe there shouldn't be pain while I'm bench pressing, and maybe there's something I have to look into. And sometimes it can be that maybe you're not bracing properly, so you're not activating those muscles around the abdomen and the spine to protect it. And also could be that maybe you're not squeezing your glutes properly to extend the hips and help support it from the bottom end as well. So those are maybe some things you want to look into, is if you're really arching and hyperextending your back, but also you just have like, your abs relaxed and your glutes relaxed and you're just sitting down, is then you may be pushing too hard and you're just hitting the end limits of certain tendons or ligaments, or maybe you're just arching so much that you're hitting a nerve or something like that. So maybe something that you want to look into, but maybe in the short term you may want to use the belt as a way to support your lower back and kind of get rid of that pain if it is something you're dealing with. Personally, I've never had pain when I was arching. I don't arch that much anyways, but I never had any pain when I was arching or coming off the arch like that, so I never used it for that reason. But I do know some people that feel better when they wear the belt because it helps relieve some of that lower back stress. Pro number 3, and this is very situational, it's like when you're first getting a belt and you're trying to get used to it and break it in, is that it can give you more opportunities just to wear and break in the belt by also wearing it for the bench press. So when I first got my belt, it felt really weird having a really stiff belt and it doesn't form around you. You have to roll a lot and actually train in it and get some sweat and heat in it to kind of get the form to your body. So instead of just wearing it on squat and deadlift and waiting for it to shape to me and getting used to it, is I also just wore it for bench press as well as a secondary factor to learning how to brace and breathe properly. Is I was giving more time to get a feel of having a belt that thick around me, having that 10mm belt around me, something I wasn't used to having it dig into your ribs and stuff like that. So then for every single session, every single exercise, I was wearing it for squat, bench press, and deadlift just to get comfortable with it and break it in faster than only wearing it for the squat and deadlift, or maybe even only the squat. All right, so now let's go into some of the cons. And con number 1, which I kind of hinted at earlier, is that it can actually restrict your arch. So depending on the width of the belt and how much you arch, then that width of the belt may get in the way of your actual arch. So it depends on whether you have the full max width belt, or if you get a thinner belt, like a bench belt or even a tapered belt. But it could, for some people, restrict how much they arch. So if you're trying to arch as much as possible, pull your chest up as high as possible, get as much of a decline, leg drive and all that stuff like that, but the belt is going to restrict you from hitting that maximum arch, then you may not want to wear the belt because it's going to stop you. It's going to hold you back from maximizing your bench press and trying to push as much weight as possible. So for some people, they'll notice that they can't get quite as much of an arch when they put their belt on, and so they're better off without the belt, so they have more movement to get into that maximum arch. But if you are wearing a taper belt or a 3-inch or 2-inch belt and you're able to arch as much as you can and the belt doesn't get in the way, then you don't have to necessarily worry about that. And con number 2, and it's going to go into a couple of little subsections to this con, is that it's just more pieces of equipment. So this could be also the cost. Are you buying the belt just for the bench press, or are you already having a belt that you're using for squat and deadlift that you're also going to use for the bench press? So it becomes an additional cost if you're buying one specifically for the bench press. And also just more pieces of equipment that have to take to the gym and you have to put on each set. So you're gonna have to put on your wrist wraps and put on your belt and bring it all to the gym. Remember to bring it. Same thing for traveling. Anyone who's gone to a national or international competition knows it's always a mission to try and fit everything into a check-in or carry-on bag when it comes to all your equipment. So having another piece of equipment that you may be only using for one lift may not be worth it. If you're going to use it for all 3 lifts, or you already have it and it's not additional expense, then this con doesn't necessarily matter. But if you're trying to buy a belt just for bench press, or you're a beginner lifter and you're trying to spend all this money on singlet and wrist wraps and knee sleeves and belt and USAPL membership and entry fee and everything like that, then the cost just keeps going up and up, and the amount of things you have to keep track of and bring to training and bring to meets just goes up and up, and it may not be worth it to start to worry about these things. Just focus on first learning the movements without any piece of equipment, then start bringing in major equipment that will help that lift. And for the belt, it'll help the squat and deadlift a lot more than a bench press. It doesn't actually physically help with the main muscles for the bench press. It may just help with these secondary things, like I said, with helping to get that feedback for bracing and breathing, or maybe if you have some kind of lower back pain, it might give you a little bit of support. So you need to take all these pros and cons and all these different situations and apply it to you and see which ones apply to you and in what way, to see whether it is worth it for you. Can you test out a belt that you already have, or maybe your friend at the gym has one that you could just try out and see how it feels, see if you like it, see if it blocks your arch or not? or is it going to be an additional expense and more of a hassle or anything like that, and it's just not worth it? And same thing, if you're already more of an advanced lifter and you're maximizing your arch, you know how to breathe and brace properly, then it's not really going to be an additional, benefit to your bench press, and all you probably really need for the bench press are posture wrist wraps and good shoes. And if you are someone who's looking into purchasing a belt, then I have this video here that goes over the best budget belts that I think will be beneficial for you for the squat, bench press, and deadlift. And if you want to learn about more bench press tips like this video right here, then you can check out my bench press tips playlist that I have right here. I'll also have a link down in the description below. Other than that, hope you guys are having a good start to the week, and I'll see you in the next video.